Welcome chess friends. Today we're going to look at a puzzle that I found in a presentation by Cor van Weijende, one of the developers of the steps method. I think it shows how beautiful chess is, and I hope you find it also really beautiful. So let's see what's going on. White is to move. Black would like to promote their pawn, especially the pawn on d3. White has an extra bishop on b1. And as part of the orientation, I would first be looking at two moves. And those two moves are king e5 and bishop takes d3. Probably they don't work, but they will give me information about what is exactly going on in this position and which problems I have to solve with white to make a draw. So let's first look at king e5, right? Bringing the king closer to the pawns that want to promote, threatening king takes e4. And how do we think black will react? Well, some players will consider king c1, right? To chase the bishop, one of the defenders, and then advance the pawn afterwards with tempo. But let's see how it plays out. King c1, bishop a2, threatening bishop b3, so the king has to continue to chase. King b2, but then bishop e6, and after d2, bishop g4. So I still would like you to visualize, but I will also show it. So I was discussing king e5, king c1, chasing the bishop, bishop a2, threatening bishop b3. So the king continues to chase, but now there's bishop e6, and the bishop defends from the other side. And now actually white is winning. So that would not be a good idea. So after king e5, does black have better? What do you think? And after king e5, black wins with the move king c3. So king e5, king c3, king takes e4, d2. And white cannot stop the promotion to a queen. So king e5, right, activating the king in the endgame and bringing the king closer, does not work. So how about bishop takes d3? Bishop takes d3, king takes d3, king e5, it's a draw. So if black wants to win, black has to play e takes d3. So let's visualize the pawn race. Bishop takes d3, e takes d3, f4, king e3, f5, d2, f6, d1, f7. So we have a pawn on the 7th rank and a queen on d1. Bishop takes d3, e takes d3, f4, king e3, d2, f6, d1 queen, f7. Now the question is black winning? Well, the easiest way to win in an ending with a pawn on the 7th rank is for the queen to occupy the promotion square and then bring the king to work together with the queen and capture the pawn. So can you visualize whether black can force their queen to f8? And then if you of course apply this idea, you find queen d8 and black is winning. So we were discussing bishop takes d3 and the pawn race, f7, and now queen d8. And on the next move, queen f8, and then black would bring their king from e3, win the pawn on f7, and then mate the white king. So we found two moves that did not work, but did we learn anything while exploring those two moves, king e5 and king c3, and bishop takes d3, king e5 and bishop takes d3? What did we learn? Well, there is one idea, right? So in chess, many times you do these kind of explorations to find the defense of your opponent and then see if you can find a move that takes away that defense. And the defense in the line bishop takes d3 was based on which move? It was based on the move queen d8 at the end of the line, occupying the f8 square. So what would be a move that prevents queen d8? And then you find a candidate move which looks very counterintuitive, but we have to evaluate it. King e7, right? Taking away the square d8 for the queen. So the king moves away from where the action is, with the idea, of course, to play bishop d3 and get the pawn race, and then prevent the queen from d1 getting to d8. King e7. Well, let's see how it continues, right? So king c3, threatening d2, so white has no time to waste and plays bishop takes d3. And we go into the same line, e takes d3. And it looks, of course, not good, because you would say, I've lost the tempo at playing king e7. So we are king e7, king c3, bishop takes d3, e takes d3, f4, d2, f5, d1, f6. Right? And when I saw this position, I could not believe that that would be a draw, to have a draw with the pawn on the 6th rank. Of course, we have to realize that this is an f-pawn, and for the f and the c-pawn, we know that there are additional drawing chances for the side with the pawn, because the queen cannot force the king in front of the pawn, like we have with the g, e, d and b pawn, because the king can go to h8, and after queen takes f7 there is a stalemate idea. So for the f and the c pawn, we have an additional defensive resource to play king h8 when the queen is close and tries to force the king in front of the pawn. And if the king is not in front of the pawn, then black cannot bring their king. So let's see, right? King e7, king c3, bishop takes d3, e takes d3, f4, d2, f5, d1, f6. Let's go to that line. And what black is really missing here is the maneuver queen e1, queen b4. Right? That would be a winning maneuver, but the king on c3 is in the way. And you can see, right, after queen e2, king f8. Right? Now we get the stalemate that we're talking about. So for me it was really surprising to find that this position is a draw. I thought that with the pawn on the 6th rank that black would have a win, but it's not the case, because the black king is really in the way on c3. Okay, but we have to verify, because this was only one line, king e7, right? So of course there are other king moves. So let's consider king e2, same line, and then we end up with the pawn on f6 again, right? So king e7, king e2, bishop takes d3, e takes d3, f4, d2, f5, d1, f6, same position, but not with the king on c3, but the king on e2. But now the king again is in the way, because we don't have queen e1 check. So the king on c3 was preventing queen b4 check, and the queen on e2 is preventing queen e1 check. And again, this is a draw. So we were looking at king e2, right? This is the alternative. Right, so f6, so let me just show you. The queen is getting closer. f7, queen e5, king f8, and we end up in the same line with the stalemate. So very surprising. So let's go, what else can black do? Well, of course there's king c1, right? So after king c1, how does white draw? And so this is, I would like to show you, right, how the position of the king is really critical. So after king c1, so if we continue with the same idea, queen d3, now black can play queen e1, and after king f8, queen b4, king g7, queen d4, black is winning. So this whole idea worked because the king was on c3 or on e2, not making this maneuver queen e1, queen b4 available. So how does white draw after king e7, king c1? Now we get back, of course, to our old line, bishop a2, right? And after d2, bishop b3, promotion. We see that now the white king says, I have done my duty in defending against queen d8. So I'm returning, and in the end 2 bare kings are left. So I thought it was really beautiful. I was surprised that that white can make a draw in this position with the pawn on the 6th rank, and I thought it is like really beautiful that you have to play the counterintuitive king e7. But once you see, of course, that queen d8 is the winning move, everything becomes evident. Just to go back to the position, right? If we would go to the position with king e7, king c3, let's just go into the line. So in this position, right, there are 3 places where it is a draw actually. So with the king on c3, defending queen e1, preventing queen e1, queen b4. With the king on e2 and with the king on e1, it's the same. So it is really the obstruction, you could say, of the black king that makes this position in the end a draw. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it as much as I did. I think it is a beautiful puzzle, and I hope you subscribe.